Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng is here. Milky Way Horde leader is dealing with that sector beast. Teacher is here. The true gods scattering around the primal universe knew that Luo Feng had arrived. So they all gathered toward where the sector beast was staying immediately. All the beings teleported and arrived there, arriving at the outer area where the space was condensed. After all, the fighting area was completely sealed, so they couldn't teleport in there. Look! Primal Chaos City Leader and Darkness, True God all looked in the same direction. The giant star tower gave out endless gleaming light. It was like a lighthouse in the dark. The power let out from its base covered an area of several square light years, forming an endless, dark whirlpool. The endless, dark whirlpool immediately shrank. As for Sector Beast Morosa, it was being swallowed by the whirlpool. Impossible. Morosa struggled to get out. The power of that black whirlpool was too strong. Even if Morosa gathered all its power, it wasn't able to resist it, let alone separate its body. Break! It kept yelling. There was bloody light all over its body. Its power surged as it struggled to get out of the dark whirlpool. However, no matter how it performed its bloody light technique, it wasn't able to get away. How? Last time, even the combination of Star Tower and space and time binding weren't able to trap me. Morosa found it hard to believe. I am now weaker, but how can Star Tower alone be able to capture me? Morosa couldn't believe what was happening, but it was of no use. The ferocious and ugly sector beast Morosa was sucked into the abyss at the base of Star Tower. Everything went back to peace, and the dark whirlpool also disappeared. Star Tower, which was emitting a gleaming light, also flew back to the palm of Luo Feng. When they saw that scene from a distance, Primal Chaos City Leader, Darkness True God, Pengong True God, Fire Dome, and the others were all amazed. They knew exactly how difficult it was to deal with the Sector Beast, especially after the Sector Beast performed the Blood Light skill. Even Primal Chaos City Leader wasn't able to trap it. Incredible. He suppressed that Sector Beast so easily. Milky Way Horde leader is much more powerful than before. He's definitely the most powerful True God universe Ocean has ever seen. Thoughts flooded the True Gods' minds. Little did they know the powerful True Gods in Universe Ocean, like Divine I True Master, were only able to create techniques at top tier level 9. And with Supreme True Treasures, they were able to attain techniques at top tier level 10. However, when Luo Feng was comprehending the evolution of chaos, he was able to create top-tier level 10 techniques, and when he was patrolling against the sector beasts, he absorbed the comprehension he had during that time aside from exploiting the potential his body had. So his power had reached a new peak. Star Tower, given to me by teacher sitting mountain guest, is indeed incredible, exclaimed Luo Feng as he took a look at Star Tower in his hand. Star Tower might have been even more precious than Wuchi God. He just hadn't figured out how valuable it actually was. Luo Feng. Milky Way. Teacher. Everyone flew toward Luo Feng. They all looked relaxed. Primal Chaos City Leader was smiling. Ha ha. After becoming a true god, your power has been greatly improved. I've tried everything in my power against that sector beast, yet I still failed to capture and kill him. However, you captured it easily. It's more difficult to kill a sector beast than to defeat one, said Luo Feng. It's harder to capture one alive, added Darkness True God. All the true gods were talking calmly. Everyone was laughing. Apparently, Luo Feng capturing the sector beast alive had left everyone in a fantastic mood. They could also infer just how exceptional Luo Feng was now that he had become a true god. After all, Luo Feng had only displayed a fraction of his power in that battle. "Let's go back," said Primal Chaos City leader. "You guys can go first." "I'll trap this sector beast in Star Tower," said Luo Feng. "I'm going to question it to get some information. The issue about sector beasts is very important." All the other true gods nodded. The true gods from the human race left one by one while Luo Feng went back to his miniature universe in Star Tower. After all, he was able to utilize his maximum power with his origin inside his miniature universe. Inside the tower, in one of the suppression spaces, the ferocious and ugly sector beast Morosa stood on the ground. There was an invisible yet powerful force suppressing it. It appeared to be at peace as it waited there in silence. "Sector beast," a white-caped being said as it showed up. He was stepping on the space, and he landed on the ground afterward. Milky Way Horde leader, Morosa glared at Luo Feng. "Luo Feng." "Sector beast, you," said Luo Feng. "Call me Morosa." Morosa raised both its heads. "You're qualified to call me by my name." Luo Feng smirked. "Okay, Morosa." Morosa nodded. "Out of all the great beings in Universe Ocean, you're the only one I admire. You're indeed powerful beyond imagination. Even if I were still at level 3, I still would have been swallowed by this star tower of yours." Luo Feng raised his eyebrows. He knew about Star Tower. Of course. Some true gods had turned to Morosa, so it shouldn't have been a surprise that Morosa knew about Star Tower. "Unfortunately, you've come back much too soon." Morosa shook its head. "I assumed that you were still guarding one of the miniature universes of a true god from the first or second universe era, and that it would take you several days to come back. I tried to swallow the origin of the primal universe. Without a guard for the willpower of that teacher origin, I would have been able to swallow half of the origin in several days, even if all the human true gods had tried to stop me. And then this teacher origin of your human race would never have stood a chance to make a breakthrough. But I didn't expect you to come back this soon." Luo Feng nodded. Morosa's plan was sensible. By swallowing the primal universe several seconds at a time, it would be able to absorb over half of the origin of the primal universe. However, Morosa hadn't expected Luo Feng to be able to teleport as far as a true god of void space, which was why he had arrived after only an hour. Morosa hadn't even been able to swallow 10% of the origin of the primal universe. "I'll be thrilled if I can avenge myself, but I don't care if I fail." Morosa gazed at Luo Feng. "I'm only a sector beast at level 2. A true catastrophe is coming for you, the human race, and all the others." Ha ha ha. With insane, ear-piercing laughter, Morosa suddenly attempted to self-destruct. Weng! 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 All of a sudden, 3 levels of power arrived at Morosa. The first level of power was single thought void space from Shawu Wing. The second level of power was the suppression from the ceiling space from Star Tower. And the third level came from the power of the origin of Luo Feng's miniature universe. All 3 levels of power were suppressing Morosa, so that it wasn't even able to self-destruct. "What?" Morosa stared at Luo Feng. Luo Feng smirked. When an undying fighter met a universe knight, he wouldn't be able to self-destruct. That was due to the absolute power gap. And now, Morosa, who was only at pinnacle level 2, wasn't able to self-destruct before Luo Feng either. "You're indeed much more powerful than before if you can even stop me from self-destructing." Morosa was enraged. If Luo Feng had been using godly power, Morosa would have tried to neutralize it. However, of the powers that Luo Feng was using now, single thought void space, the ceiling space of Star Tower, and the origin, none utilized godly power, so Morosa couldn't even fight it. "You're not going to die now," said Luo Feng. Truthfully, it was difficult to suppress someone so that they couldn't self-destruct. If Luo Feng had remained outside, without the origin of the miniature universe and the ceiling space of Star Tower, he wouldn't have been able to do that. Star Tower was a mysterious valuable. Aside from the attack techniques, its major function was suppression. If someone was trapped in Star Tower, it would be difficult for them to die. This made Luo Feng doubt where Star Tower was actually from. He no longer believed that Sitting Mountain Guest had created Star Tower himself, and that a trace of golden light had flown into the valuable and changed it qualitatively. There was no way it was a coincidence. There was no way that a trace of golden light flying in could have sculpted such advanced techniques on it. Even Luo Feng wasn't able to figure out some of the engravings on Star Tower. And based on the connection between Sitting Mountain Guest and the world of Jin, Luo Feng believed that Star Tower might have belonged to a supreme being from Jin country, a valuable perhaps left by His Majesty the godly king of Jin, or one of his supreme beings. It's no use. I can't blow myself up. Morosa smirked. Do you really think that trapping me means the ultimate king of sector beasts won't be born? Luo Feng smiled. That's exactly what I mean to accomplish. According to the original mind, the sector beasts would try to kill and swallow each other until only one was left. The final one would be the king of sector beasts. If Luo Feng suppressed and trapped a sector beast, so that the others weren't able to kill it, even if all the other sector beasts swallowed each other, and a final one survived that was so powerful even Luo Feng couldn't rival it, no sector beast wouldn't be able to kill Morosa. Then there wouldn't be any king of the sector beasts. And if there wasn't a king of the sector beasts, there would be a chance to turn things around. You're wrong, said Morosa. Even if I can't self-destruct, I'll have to fight the final sector beast. Otherwise, I'll die. This is our fate, and you won't be able to do anything about it. Morosa had to do battle. It seemed that it wasn't a coincidence that the ultimate king was always born. You look so confident, said Luo Feng. Are you really that powerful? Of course, said Morosa. It's so easy for us to annihilate all the races in Universe Ocean. Even the original universe will have to destroy itself. But I can tell from you that sector beasts are very weak, said Luo Feng. Morosa glanced at Luo Feng. If you want to tempt me to tell you about sector beasts, don't try to disguise it. Just ask me. Okay. Luo Feng nodded. Tell me, how many sector beasts are there in the sector beast hive, and how powerful are they? Do you really think I'll tell you? Morosa's eyes were glaring at Luo Feng. I can't believe you're this stupid. Luo Feng frowned. You're such a moron. Morosa raised his head and guffawed. You want to kill me? Are you angry? Want to kill me? Come at me. Not cooperating. Luo Feng shook his head. If I can make you my slave, you'll have to follow me. Luo Feng pointed, and a beam of triangular light flew out of his finger, flying toward Morosa. Morosa wanted to dodge it, but he wasn't able to. The triangular light sank into his chest. Luo Feng had captured Morosa alive this time, so that other sector beasts wouldn't be able to kill him. By doing so, he hoped that the ultimate king of sector beasts would never be born. Then they would stand a chance of surviving the catastrophe of sector beasts this time. However, according to Morosa, it was not going to work, so Luo Feng thought of a different way. He had decided to enslave Morosa. As long as Morosa became his sole slave, Morosa would trust Luo Feng completely from the bottom of its soul. It would even be willing to die for Luo Feng, and it would tell Luo Feng everything it knew. Once I enslave it, I might be able to cultivate Morosa into the ultimate king, Luo Feng thought. Perhaps it's almost impossible to do it, but if it becomes my slave, it'll devote its entire heart to me. It will tell me everything about the hive of the sector beasts. It'll also tell me the strengths and weaknesses of sector beasts. I can only defeat the sector beasts after I know all about them. No matter what, enslaving a sector beast would give Luo Feng a much better chance of winning. After the trace of triangular light was absorbed by the body of Morosa, it said something in a mild voice, and then Luo Feng wasn't able to sense it anymore. I failed. Luo Feng frowned. Ha ha ha, both of the two heads of Morosa were guffawing, and it looked scornful. Milky Way Horde leader, you're too arrogant. Do you really think you can enslave me? I am a majestic creature birthed by Universe Ocean, and I am a destructive being, the opposite to the original universe. Do you really think you can enslave me? Luo Feng said coldly. To be accurate, the ultimate king out of the 1 billion sector beasts represents destruction, and stands against the original universe. As for you, you're not qualified to do so. Morosa stared at Luo Feng with his two singular eyes and smiled wickedly. That's right. I'm not there yet. However, you're only a creature born in the original universe. Do you really think you can enslave me? Just sit and watch, said Luo Feng indifferently. Luo Feng flicked his fingers, and suddenly, traces of invisible threads gathered in front of him. The threads suddenly formed a strange picture. There was an ancient word made up of engravings on the picture. Enslave. The transparent picture broke the surrounding space and flew toward Morosa, penetrating its body. Morosa said something in a mild voice again, while Luo Feng lost his sense of the picture. Luo Feng frowned. What now? Morosa was exhilarated. Show me everything you've got. Show me now. I'm a sector beast at the same level as you true gods. You're only a true god yourself. Do you really think you can enslave me? Quick! Show me. Morosa was being suppressed by Luo Feng at the moment, so it reveled in upsetting Luo Feng. Humph! Two traces of blurry, golden light shot out of Luo Feng's eyes, and the two light pillars intertwined. All of a sudden, countless traces of golden light wound around each other, forming a gigantic network of golden threads. It covered Morosa and penetrated its body, but then, it vanished. How? Luo Feng said. He heard Morosa's jeering, but he didn't care, as Morosa was only a suppressed sector beast. The skills I performed are all the top-tier, enslaving skills from Duan Dong River, and the world of Jin. Luo Feng couldn't believe it. I didn't even feel its resistance before the skills I performed dissipated. Normally, those facing enslavement would fight against it. One party was trying to enslave the other, while the other party attempted to resist it. If one was too weak to resist, it would be enslaved. However, Luo Feng didn't even sense resistance when performing his top-tier enslaving skills. They all vanished once they entered the body of Morosa. And I didn't feel any power consumption. Luo Feng was confused. Godly power and the power of the sector beasts would consume each other. However, that wasn't the case for blurry godly power. Many true gods were able to perform soul attacks, and those attacks could penetrate the bodies of sector beasts and damage their souls. However, the blurry godly power he used vanished without even being resisted by the sector beast. Does that mean that since it represents destruction, I'm not qualified to enslave it? Luo Feng shook his head. He wasn't willing to give up like this. I might need to use the power of sector beasts. Luo Feng pondered the issue. Morosa was exhilarated. It was sneering and ridiculing Luo Feng. Do you really think you can enslave me? Ha ha ha. Come. Let's see what you can do. But then Morosa's demeanor changed. How? Morosa stared at the white-caped man in front of him, dazed. Luo Feng's forces and power were quickly changing. Soon, Luo Feng became dark, emitting wicked forces, as if he were a sector beast. The only difference was that sector beasts had 2 heads while Luo Feng only had 1. He didn't want to change his shape as well. How can you become? Morosa shook his head. It must be fake. You're only simulating my look. The power you use isn't the power of sector beasts. I can say that for sure. Ordinary sector beasts were also able to turn into true gods and produce godly power forces. However, those were all fake, as they weren't actual godly power. Oh? Luo Feng pointed, and the threads immediately gathered in the sky, soon forming a new picture. There was an ancient word, enslave, on the picture. The difference was in the power that constituted the picture. The power used this time was the peak of the power of a sector beast. The picture flew toward Morosa, who grew anxious for the first time. The picture penetrated its chest. The image immediately went into its chest. Sector. Luo Feng raised his eyebrows. He was able to sense the sector inside Morosa's body through the picture. He had performed all sorts of skills, but they had all vanished each time they touched the sector. He hadn't even been able to sense it. But this time, it penetrated the body, even after touching the sector. No wonder nothing worked before, whispered Luo Feng. There's a sector inside the sector beast body that resists all other forms of power. The soul of Morosa was hidden in its sector, the most important part of its body. Its soul was roaring as it tried to resist it. The picture emitted endless traces of light, and tried to suppress it. It tried to attach itself to the soul, attempting to merge with the soul. Its soul was trying everything, and the sector was empowering the soul. For a long time, it was a stalemate. The picture disappeared. Luo Feng had failed again. Morosa looked at Luo Feng. It couldn't believe what had just happened. It hadn't expected a great being born in Universe Ocean, whom it viewed only as food, would be able to use the power of sector beasts. Even though Luo Feng was powerful, Morosa only viewed him as a more powerful meal. However, it doubted itself now. This weak meal was able to use the power of sector beasts, yet he hadn't turned into a sector beast. If he had, Morosa wouldn't have been able to resist it. Without turning into a sector beast and without being bestowed with their power, Luo Feng had still been able to perform the power of sector beasts on his own. Impressive, said Morosa. You're more powerful than I thought, but so what? Ever since sector beasts were born, we have had magnificent willpower. Morosa stared at Luo Feng. Our souls are almost perfect. Do you really think you can enslave me? Impossible. Even if you have the power of a sector beast, you wouldn't be able to enslave me. Luo Feng smiled. He didn't care about how Morosa reacted. Although he had failed again, he understood that there was a chance that he could succeed in enslaving a sector beast by using the power of a sector beast. Luo Feng said coldly, to be accurate, the ultimate king out of the 1 billion sector beasts represents destruction, and stands against the original universe. As for you, you're not qualified to do so. Morosa stared at Luo Feng with his 2 singular eyes and smiled wickedly. That's right. I'm not there yet. However, you're only a creature born in the original universe. Do you really think you can enslave me? That only means my soul enslaving skills aren't good enough yet, Luo Feng thought. I need to learn better enslaving skills. And then, Luo Feng sat down with his legs crossed. He sat on the ground, facing sector beast Morosa in the distance. Single thought void space, suppression from the ceiling space, and the origin of the small universe, all 3 combined were repressing every inch of the power inside Morosa, so that it wasn't able to self-destruct at all. Come you, Morosa was swearing and taunting. However, Luo Feng pretended that nothing was happening. He didn't care about it. Instead, most of his mind was on the godly power avatar under the black-striped stone pillar. The godly power avatar was studying the soul enslaving technique in a place where time traveled 10 million times faster. He started to learn something more complicated. He had improved a lot after comprehending the evolution of chaos when his miniature universe was born. However, after a year as a true god, Luo Feng had exploited the potential of his body and understood the invisible and formless ability. He tried to integrate his comprehension after his power peaked. Also, he had focused his energy on some fighting techniques of Star Tower and Wu Qi God. Meanwhile, he had never studied the technique to enslave souls, and prior to this war, Luo Feng had never even thought of enslaving sector beasts. The more solid his foundation was, the more advanced enslaving techniques he could learn. This time, Luo Feng was studying an enslaving technique he had obtained from the world of Jin. This enslaving technique had been created by a holy being under His Majesty, the godly king from Jin country, when it still existed. Its name was 3 Stars Sector. It was arguably the best soul enslaving technique in the world of Jin. Even the enslaving techniques created by the godly king of Jin couldn't compare to that technique. Everyone had their own strengths. When it came to enslaving, that supreme being from Jin country was the most powerful. 3 Stars Sector was an enslaving technique utilized through illusion. There were different enslaving techniques, including enslaving by strength and enslaving by illusions. As for enslaving by illusion, this was done by trapping enemies in illusions without letting them realize it, and then the enemies would become slaves. Time passed. The technique was intricate, and soon, more than 1 year had passed. Luo Feng. Where is he? Primal Chaos City leader asked. He couldn't wait any longer. Luo Feng had captured the sector beast alive, because he'd wanted to question it. He had asked Primal Chaos City leader and the others to leave first, saying he would come back soon. But now, 1 year passed, yet Luo Feng still wasn't back. Inside the miniature universe, Star Tower was floating. Inside a suppression area in Star Tower, the sector beast faced Luo Feng. It kept taunting, laughing, swearing, and provoking, but Luo Feng simply pretended it didn't exist. I'll be back soon, teacher. Luo Feng said via message. He had finally learned the first volume of 3 Stars Sector. Morosa was shocked, as Luo Feng, who had been sitting for more than a year, suddenly stood up. Luo Feng stared at Morosa. Let's see whether or not you can still resist it. Just come at me. Morosa looked fierce, but it was actually afraid. However, it couldn't even dodge while beneath the 3 levels of suppression. Luo Feng pointed, and a crystal in the shape of a drop of water flew out of his fingers. There were engravings on the drop of water. The drop of water went into one of the bloody eyes of Morosa. Morosa blinked both of his eyes, and then it stood there still. It wasn't moving at all. I'm the ultimate king, Betty. I am the ultimate one. Ha ha ha. Morosa stood beside a broken body. It raised its head and guffawed. It bowed its head and devoured again. I'll eat you after all. If I can eat you, I'll be the ultimate king, and then I'll go kill the human, Milky Way Horde leader. I'll be truly invincible. That pathetic Milky Way Horde leader. He really looks down on me. I'll make him regret it. Morosa was insolent. Luo Feng stared at Morosa, who was still standing there without moving. Suddenly, a strange imprint of 3 drops showed up on its chest. Then the imprint disappeared. It's done. Luo Feng saw the water drop imprint show up on the chest of the sector beast. He could sense the soul of Morosa very soon, and he was overjoyed. Morosa blinked its eyes, dazed. It whispered, I am the ultimate king. It's time to wake up, said Luo Feng. I should I should get away from you, said Morosa. You fought so many sector beasts, and left the hive in chaos. I've been struggling to climb up from rock bottom, getting stronger. I even ate Betty. I'll be the ultimate king. How? Luo Feng yelled, Morosa. Morosa was dazed, and the absolute veneration from the bottom of its soul made it bow. Master, it said. Luo Feng smiled. Master, what kind of enslaving technique is that? Asked Morosa. I didn't even realize what was happening, but I was just enslaved like that. Even though it was enslaved, it still had perfect memories of before, so it still remembered everything that had happened. However, from this moment on, Luo Feng would be the one it completely obeyed and admired. It's called 3-star sector, created by a supreme being called Gold, said Luo Feng. Gold? Morosa whispered. Yes, Gold. Luo Feng nodded. Gold was the Holy One, who had been the best at enslavement under Godly King of Jin country. Before Jin country was destroyed, he had been the right-hand man of the Godly King of Jin. His enslaved army was a mysterious, but powerful force in Jin country. Unfortunately, it had died just like Jin country. Luo Feng's miniature universe suddenly trembled, and a powerful force swept across it, as well as Luo Feng's star tower. Huh! Luo Feng raised his head, and so did Morosa, who was shocked. It's the rules, said Morosa. Luo Feng nodded. A supreme force had just swept across the miniature universe, and it seemed to be an alarm, a warning of life and death. It's not that easy to enslave sector beasts. Luo Feng took a look at the sector beast beside him and felt heavy-hearted. He understood that sector beasts represented destruction. He had enslaved a sector beast just now, which meant he might enslave the king of the sector beasts, who stood against the original universe, and who represented the destruction of the origin. There had to be repercussions for enslaving a sector beast. The law wouldn't simply let him succeed like that. Sitting Mountain Guest sat on a fragment of a cabin that was flying outside Universe boat. He suddenly opened his eyes, as he could feel the blurry ripple. Rules, he said. Last time, when my disciple made a breakthrough, the supreme law was triggered. Is that what just happened again? Sitting Mountain Guest was a bit worried. Has the king of sector beasts been born? Or has something else that affects the entire universe ocean happened again? Only something major could trigger the supreme laws. Far in the distant Tilted Peak sector, in the land of darkness, inside the core, within the endless darkness were many sector beasts. Some were fighting and eating. Some hid and tried to swallow power to improve themselves. Some were stalking their prey. All the sector beasts were fighting to become the ultimate king. Even the weaker sector beasts were trying to survive, causing other sector beasts to die. All of a sudden, Betty, who was chasing a feeling sector beast, stopped. There was blood on the edge of its mouth. Both of its heads were looking in the same direction, and it whispered, Morosa. Morosa, whispered a hideous sector beast clutching an axe, looking in the same direction. Two sector beasts, who were fighting, also stopped. The ones hiding and recovering their power opened their eyes. The weak sector beasts, that were just trying to survive, also looked in the same direction. Morosa. Morosa. All the sector beasts were dazed. They all stopped no matter what they were doing. All of them only had one thought in their minds, Morosa. When the 1 billion sector beasts were born, they had been destined to fight and kill each other so that only one could live, which was why they could sense each other, and no matter how far they were from each other, they were able to send messages. When Morosa was enslaved by Luo Feng, all the sector beasts sensed it at the same time. The life ripples of their comrade, Morosa, sharply changed. All the sector beasts immediately understood that Morosa had been enslaved. No need for language. No need for messages. At this moment, all the living sector beasts sensed each other, and they could all confirm that Morosa, in the distance, had been enslaved. Morosa was no longer their comrade, instead, Morosa would be their true enemy. Betty raised its head and yelled in a shrill voice. The sector beast carrying an axe did the same thing, and the voice was full of anger, hostility, and insanity. At that moment, all the sector beasts in the hive roared at once. They were furious. They were noble creatures, yet one of their brethren had been enslaved. It was a provocation to them that could not be tolerated. It was a disgrace. A disgrace to all the sector beasts. One that had to be washed away by death. Not long ago, Morosa had sent a message to all the sector beasts, a message about Milky Way Horde leader Luo Feng. Morosa had said that it was being suppressed by Milky Way Horde leader, and had warned them to beware of the star tower of Milky Way Horde leader. In Universe Ocean, it was difficult for other true gods to kill Morosa, but it wasn't impossible. However, when it came to enslaving, only Milky Way Horde leader was able to do so. And besides, Morosa had been suppressed by Milky Way Horde leader, which meant it must have been Milky Way Horde leader who enslaved Morosa. Milky Way Horde leader. Milky Way Horde leader. Milky Way Horde leader. At that moment, all the sector beasts were exasperated. They were all hostile toward that reckless Milky Way Horde leader. At that moment, they had a common enemy. It was rare for sector beasts to cooperate. They didn't want to cooperate. They were born to fight and kill each other. However, when they were threatened or angered, they would collaborate. Apparently, Milky Way Horde leader had enslaved Morosa. This incensed all the sector beasts in the hive. The shrill and insane yelling echoed through every inch of the hive of sector beasts. Inside the suppression space of Star Tower, Luo Feng had already taken away the 3 levels of power used to suppress Morosa. Since it was enslaved, so it would completely obey Luo Feng. Master, said Morosa with veneration. Tell me about the hive of sector beasts. Luo Feng looked solemn. From the force of supreme laws, Luo Feng could tell that there would be dangers coming. Morosa answered, I need to tell you something, Master. I told every sector beast in the hive about you. I shared your information. What information? Luo Feng frowned. Morosa immediately told Luo Feng what it had revealed to the sector beasts. Luo Feng was stunned. Please forgive me, Master, said Morosa. I was filled with hate for you, and I was sure that I was going to die, so I wanted you dead, too. I tried to reveal how powerful and terrific you are, to motivate all the sector beasts to fight each other harder. They might cooperate under a threat. Luo Feng said, keep talking. Also, when I was suppressed in Star Tower, I sent a message to them. I told them I couldn't fight back at all. I told them that I had been swallowed by Star Tower and was suppressed, and I couldn't even self-destruct. What? Luo Feng clenched his fist. He was in trouble now. He had told the others that he couldn't self-destruct. Apparently, Morosa had been trying to warn the sector beasts in the hive of how terrific Luo Feng was, so that they would be well prepared for a threat like him. Master, said Morosa anxiously, I just wanted to take revenge against you, which is why. I know, and I don't blame you. Luo Feng shook his head. Let me ask you, how many sector beasts are there in the hive of sector beasts? And how powerful are they now? This was the problem Luo Feng was most concerned about. He needed to know thoroughly about the sector beasts, so that he could be better prepared. Morosa started to tell him everything it knew. At the start, 1 billion sector beasts were born in the hive, and all the sector beasts were at primal status, level 1. Luo Feng listened carefully. Normally, for every 33 sector beasts born at level 1, 1 sector beast is born at level 2. And out of 33 level 2 sector beasts, 1 level 3 sector beast is born, So on and so forth, said Morosa. If there are more than 30 level 6 sector beasts born, they'll keep eating each other, and the one who survives in the end will be the ultimate king, the one with the power to destroy the origin. Once a king is born, master, you won't be able to stop it no matter how powerful you are. As for now, the most powerful sector beasts in the hive should be at level 4. Of course, the number of sector beasts at level 2 is the greatest. There are almost 10 million sector beasts in the hive now. 10 million. Luo Feng had already determined the number before, but he was still scared by what Morosa had just said. There were around 10 million sector beasts in the hive that were at least as powerful as this sector beast. No wonder the original mind was trying everything it could to stay alive. This video will end here.